My life, my work, and the restructuring of our world. I'm Roger Burnley, and I'm an intuitive empowerment life purpose coach. And the date is June 15th, 2022. And the reason I'm giving you the date because you would know that we have moved through some very tremendous things in our world, and a lot of people are not understanding what's happening, and I do. And I want to explain that and explain why I know and why I was the one to receive a piece of work called Your Life Operating Instructions, which I turned into a program called 4 Weeks to Your Best Life, and how that comes together and how it can transform your life, and why I know I can help you to transform your life if you work with me. But I want everybody to see this, and I'll leave it on demand probably so that you can watch it at your leisure, because if you're going to work with me, or if you're going to hire me, or if someone wants me to speak on their podcast or event or whatever it is, I'd like for you to know my complete information and why I'm talking about it now. Because this is a time where you are meant to become your authentic self. That's what's happening. That's why the world looks the way that it does now. It's for you to become your authentic self. And that's the process that I had to go through. And I'm still moving through it, as we all are, because we're always doing that as we live our lives. But sometimes it gets confusing, especially when we have world events happening as they are now that none of us have experienced. But I was told that I had a memory of those, and that's why I was granted access to information that could help more people, and that's what I'm doing. So I will tell you the story a little bit, because I've done so many things in my life, so many different jobs, and I had to find that place where I was meant to be. This is why I do the work that I do, because I know every single person has a place that they're meant to be in their lives, that it was given to them when they were born, and you just spend your life figuring that out. And then what we do a lot of times is we doubt it, and we move through our lives having fear and doubt and not owning who we are. And this time in our world is when it's essential, important for you to own who you are, because you add an energy to the world that changes what's going on. Now that's something that a lot of people don't understand, but I do. And eventually more people will understand it as we do more study and development in terms of quantum mechanics and physics and all of that. We know how creation happens now. And I started to channel this stuff a long time ago. And this is the part that I didn't talk about, because it was like I needed to know. I've always lived a life where I needed to have validation of what I was receiving before I would give it to others. And I've done it in every single career that I've had, which have been many. However, this time we're moving into a new place. We are moving into a new world, and we must know how to accept that, because it's for you. You are in the world because you are evolving. That's it. It has nothing to do with what's going on out there. It's about your individual journey, and that's what my program tells you, because you were born to live something that is within you. It only develops as you move through your life. And then we have events like what we've gone through in the last few years that cause you to know that. So let me tell you a couple of stories. In 1988, I began my process of automatic writing, where I began receiving Wilhelm. I told no one. Very few people, maybe a couple of friends, not even much of my family, because I didn't understand it. How did that happen? How did I start receiving information? And I was going through a change in 1988 where I was leaving a position, and I knew I needed to go into this other position, but I was frightened. And I didn't have any money, didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I had to do it. My intuition has always been very strong my entire life. And that's something a lot of people couldn't understand, even my family. So it's hard, it was difficult for me to accept that. But again, we're in a different place now. We each have to own who we are. And my job, what I do, is help guide you to your authenticity, because I know that it's there. It's in every single person. So as I was making this change, I decided to try automatic writing, because I read something about it, and I sat down and I started writing, trying it. And a few days, nothing happened. And then on maybe 3 days later, I started feeling something, and I started writing. It felt like something was taking over my hand. And I kept going with it, but what I was receiving was information that was making sense, and it was helping me. And I thought, this is nuts, but it was like the article that I read from this other guy who said that it happened for him. And so I kept going with it, but still, It was a different time in our world, and not a lot of this was acceptable. It's different now because more people are talking about spirituality and awakening and ascension and all of that, and we are ascending. The entire world, the planet, is ascending, and that's what we're moving through. But I kept going along doing this, not telling anyone until I was outed, as it was in 2007, and someone found it, and then I put it out there, and then eventually I had put up a website, had someone put up a website. I resisted it all because what had happened, I was getting such great information from all of this that I wouldn't leave my house until I had done my writing and my meditation, because I knew I would be in a different place and I would be grounded and I would be okay no matter what was going on. And I had a lot of stuff going on. I've moved through more difficulties and challenges in my life than most people could even imagine. Illnesses, diseases, accidents, surgeries, hospitalizations, drug addiction. I mean, I can give you all of them. I went through all of them. And this work had me conquer them as well. I wrote a book in 2018 called Overcoming Fear, A Guide to Freedom, because that's really what happens. Once you move through your fear, you do experience this place of freedom where you're not freaking out about everything that might be going on, especially what's going on in the world now. I don't have fear about that because of the work that I've done. And that's why I know I need to have more people understand this, because energetically we are creating the world. And if we have more people going around in fear, then we're going to keep having conflicts, disasters, and all. It's all going to be there. So what happened as I was doing all of this, I became, I use my ability to receive this information to create all sorts of things. When I started coaching in 1988, I was terrified and I didn't know what I was doing, but this information got me there. Showed me how to do everything. I received information that I couldn't explain to you why I had it, but it came through. And I created a big business. I created a coaching business, singing coaching business at first. And no one knew that I didn't know what I was doing because I was relying on my intuition. And that's what was happening. And I came to understand that I'd done that my entire life. Years before, I took one business and made it really successful and didn't know how I had done it. And everyone was asking me, how did you do that? I said, I don't know. And that was the key that gave me, that showed me what I was meant to do and how I could help everyone else. Because see, I figured out later what I was doing was being myself. I just wasn't aware of that at the time. But then I worked through it. And it gave me the ability to put together things that could help others come to that place. We have to operate within the realms of our physicality, meaning there's certain things that just happen as humans. We think in a certain way. We use our brain chemistry. We know so much more about that now. And because of how we choose to think, what we've been taught and all of that, we will then have certain behaviors. We'll create certain things. And if we don't figure that out, then we're ending up with our lives that look like a mess. And that never has to happen. It never has to happen if you're willing to keep moving into yourself. And I was determined to find this. I was determined to figure it out because I was driven to so many things in my life that were problematic. I had to devise ways of figuring that out. And I wanted to know that it all worked. And I'm going to bring you up to speed in terms of my program and why I keep talking about it and what's happening in the world, because I know how important it is for more people to understand who they are. In 2020, I started receiving different messages. I started receiving the messages about the restructuring of our world. I didn't know what that meant, because it hadn't happened yet. We were just at the beginning of the pandemic, but I knew there was something there. And so what I instinctively did was I started bringing groups together. I said, people need to come together and find some courage together, because that's also where we're moving into. We're moving into a collaborative world where things are going to be a little bit different. That's the restructuring that is occurring. So I started doing that, not knowing what was really happening, and then it started to become apparent to me. We were going into division and fighting and all kinds of things, which I was told in 2012. Now, how did that come about? After I started working with this and doing my groups and all of that throughout 2020, then in 2021, I started receiving new information, and that information was about the United States, about what we were going to go through. I live in the United States, what we were going to move through here, and everyone here would be experiencing something, and you can see it happening now. We're going to have divisions, we're going to have fights, we're going to have all of that, but that's called evolution. We must have conflict at times. We have to break down old things to have something new. You have to let go of your old belief about who you thought you were to access the new you that has been developed, because that has happened. You have evolved. You have ascended to a new part of you, and that's why it might be a little uncomfortable. We become uncomfortable because we have a fear of the unknown, a built-in fear. And so more people now are looking at the world and going, what's going to happen? And so they're not sure, and so they're injecting fear. And so then the way that we create things is by how much love we're going to put in and how much fear we're going to put in. And then that causes the world to evolve. And then that we manifest a world that looks as the result of those energies. The collective energies that we will put in, that's what happens. So if you're walking around judging yourself, judging everyone else, fighting, doing all of that, you're putting in a negative energy that's very low, and it's going to keep us in conflict. If you are deciding to work on yourself and become who you're meant to be and become authentic, you're putting love and light into the world. That shifts the trajectory of everything. That's what happens. So as I'm doing all of this, I'm thinking, I don't know, what is it? Where is this going? So then in 2021, I'm walking down the street, and I hear my guide say to me, we gave you everything you needed to know in 2012. I said, that made no sense. It made absolutely no sense to me, and I doubted every moment of it. And I said, I can't believe it. So I come back into my home, and then I looked at my computer, and I noticed that there was a folder that I hadn't noticed before that was set aside that just said Wilhelm. That's the channel, that's the name that I use when I channel, and it said Wilhelm. But where I post all of my messages is on Any Advice for Today. And I had that folder, I saw that all the time. But this one was just hiding there in plain sight that I didn't see it. I opened the folder, and most of the messages in there were 2012. I'm like, how did that happen? I attempted to think of every human reason why that would have happened. See, because we get stuck that way. We go to church and we do spiritual things, and we think to get us out of our limited thinking, saying everything is possible. But then when things happen that are out of the ordinary, we have trouble accepting that. And I did that. But that's just been who I am. And then also as a coach, I want to know that what I have is valid, that it's going to give a result. So I went through this for months where I doubted everything I was feeling. Because as my clients do, you doubt what you think you have, and so you can't finish your project because you don't think you're the person to do it, or you're not good enough. No, that's never it. It's just that you have to move through that resistance, as I did, to accept what you've been given, because it was something brilliant. Every single person. There are no exceptions to that. The only difference is this. Some people will hear all of this and say it's just completely nothing. And some people will say, yes, I know that's going on for me, and I'm going to decide to know who I am and live the life that I was meant to live. Because see, when you do that, all the things that you want come to you. And we're moving into a time now where more people are going to be worried about their money and worrying about all the physical material things and all. And so, but if you were to get in touch with the energy of everything, you wouldn't have that fear. And that's what my program moves you to understand that you can bring into your life what you want. And yes, the law of attraction is real, but we're not paying attention to it all the time. So as I'm going through all of this, I decided I'm going to still keep testing everything. And so I would ask people that I would meet just randomly, or my clients, I said, what's your birthday? Just the month and the day. And I would go to 2012 and I would look it up, because see, I'm still testing myself. And I would look at it and I would read the message to them, and every time they would just, wow, they would freak out. Hey, did two of those today. Two of them today. One's a good friend for more than 40 years. He's like, he didn't understand how it happened either. We have to let go of our disbelief. I had to do that because I know that it's time to bring something of value to the world to help the world evolve. That's really what's going on. So as I kept going through this, I said, I'm still doubting it. And then I said I had to get over it. Because see, when you doubt something, when you doubt who you're supposed to be or what you might do, it's going to cause you so much grief and pain and all of that, because you're just questioning. You're lying in your bed at night. Is it me? Did I do this? Do I have something? Yes, you do. And you just have to keep going for it. That's what it is. So I said, let me test this now, because I test everything. And so in December of 2021, I decided to put together a group, and I used 4 weeks, called it 4 Weeks to Your Best Life, which was the material that I received that was part of your life operating instructions. And I put these people in that group, and I was shocked at seeing how quickly they changed. They evolved. They started getting in touch with who they were. And I'm freaking out the entire time, I got to tell you, because I know how long it took me. I've spent years going to coaches and mentors and taking classes and doing courses, doing everything to try to figure out who I was. I remember going to therapy at one point, and I said it would take me months and months and months before I would finally admit something or get to something. And I'm watching these people in the program doing it so quickly. And I've talked about this. This has been out there. And I even was late one day to one of our follow-up meetings because I was staying up all night reading what they had written because I could not believe what I was receiving. And then it was explained to me why it worked. You see, because in my program, in the information I was given in 2012, it said we all have infinite intelligence. We all do. And all we have to do is decide that we can allow it to come in. And what that means is everything that has existed, all the information that has happened in our world, it exists. It is there. And this is something that some people might know as you can even think of it as the Akashic record, and where all the information is there. People, some people will believe that or not, but we have infinite intelligence. And what that means is that if a genius came before, you have access to that information if you decide to let it come in. Not everyone will do that. Most people will study and get it that way. I didn't do that, you see. I never studied anything, so that's why it was difficult and strange for me to accept. Because I didn't discover until I was 70 years old that I had ADHD. Which explained a lot of things, why I didn't read, why I didn't study all of these things. And then I would go through what a lot of people do, the imposter syndrome. Oh, maybe I'm just copying someone else. And so I started staying away from listening to people or doing any of that because I wanted to know that this was real. But then it didn't matter anymore because I had the results. I had the results from those people that came into the program in December. They were transforming. Now, I discovered that the reason it worked is that I was using all these scientific things that I had no clue I was doing. I just put it together because I was being guided. That's what I've always done. And the scientific thing was getting someone to change themselves every day. Every single day you're doing something. You're working on an idea that I gave you, because I give you in the program my interpretation of what I explained, what I got from this particular message or what it is, but then you are doing the work. And so when you're sitting there and you're writing, wow, does that change your brain? And then day by day by day, you're saying, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling empowered. I'm starting to know who I am. I'm starting to let go of my judgment. I'm starting to reframe my past, meaning that you start to understand that everything that you went through was purposeful and meaningful, and it gave you value, and you have all this value within you waiting to come out if you could accept it and understand it. And that's what happens in my program, and it happened for me. And I say that because people didn't understand that either. When I receive information, I don't remember it. I have to go back and study it just like everyone else. I have to go back and look. When I do a live channeling session, I don't remember that as it's happening. I have to listen again. And I didn't listen to a lot of the recordings that I did, and so I didn't appreciate the fact that, we were told that we were going to have a war. We might have a war. We were told a lot of things. We were told that the weather might be what it is because we have not been paying attention to us. Now, what that means is, see, you are that important. When you start loving yourself, you start doing different things in the world. You start acting differently. So imagine if more people around on the planet started doing that. If they started loving themselves, owning who they are, energetically, it changes everything. And I've known this for a while, but I could not talk about it because I said I had to be sure. And now I'm sure. I had to come to clarity, and this is anyone who knows me, who's worked with me and anything else, know that I've had a habit of doing that. But then again, I had to work through, like most people do, I had to work through my disbelief. I had to work through my fear of judgment and all of that, because that was really the main one. For the longest time, I could not tell people how I was creating all of this, how I was doing it. We all have this intuitive ability. We all have this sense that we could do something more, but we have to be encouraged. We have to develop it, and we have to assimilate it into our consciousness. This is mindset, you see. When you change your mindset, and it's a gradual thing, you have to do it consistently, and that's scientific again, but when you change it, you become a new person. You're not afraid. You're feeling how powerful you are. You're just going out and doing things in a completely different way. And then what happens is you don't need to kill people. You see? We don't need to fight one another. We don't need to go through all of that. And I'm saying this because now it's a perfect time for you to come into ownership of yourself, because you need to know your beliefs. You need to know your values and all of that, because they're going to be tested. And everybody's going to have a different opinion. Your opinion is correct. Your opinion is correct. Your truth is correct, because it's endemic to you. It's why you were born. You have this this composition of DNA specific to you that includes all sorts of other places, countries, and races. If you've ever done your DNA, you'll see that. But because of that, you are a unique individual, and you came in with these qualities that you were meant to pull together, and you did it at this time so you could be alive now, so that you could help the world. See, because if you decide to own who you are and start putting something different into the world, your energy, collectively, the world starts to change. And that's why we're all here. And that's the work that I do. And we have to become honest. We have to stop doubting who we are. Each person has this genius within them. And my philosophy, as you will know, and what the philosophy of Your Life Operating Instructions is all about, is that every single person is needed, essential, perfect, and no matter what they have thought about their condition, their bodies, their whatever, your families, all of that was perfect, because it's what you came into the world to work with, to move through, to ascend, to evolve, and then you add that back into the world. And that's the work that I do, and it's the only work that I do. And it's feeling it is the most important right now in our world, because when we do that, wow, will things change. Not only will your life be better, because you'll be happy. You won't be afraid. You won't be fighting. You'll allow abundance to come to you. All of those things will happen if you just do the one thing that you were supposed to do. The only thing that you were supposed to do when you were born, and that is become yourself. That's all. That's all you were supposed to do. Now, I've worked on this for more than 40 years, so I know what I'm talking about. I've done this forever. I started writing something back in 1983 that was going to be the beginning of my book, basically, of what it was. And then somebody else came to me in around 2012 as well and wanted me to write something else. But I said, I'm not quite ready yet. I got to put all this together. But it was going to be Becoming You. Because, see, that's the thing that is the most important. Every person, when you own who you are, when you love yourself, we change the world. And that's what you will do. And you have the opportunity now, simply because you exist in the world at this time. We have never had this time. You have never existed at this time. And if all you have to do is decide that you're going to do something to own who you are, become really comfortable in that, and then what starts to happen, you look at others and you start to love them as well. Can you imagine what that does to the world? Eventually, where that goes, we're going to not kill people anymore, have no more wars. We won't let people starve to death. Yeah, everyone's responsibility is before them now, and that responsibility is you becoming who you were meant to be. And that's what I help you with, and I know I'm the best at doing that, because I've had the experience, and that's what I'm going to give to everyone I work with.